There's clearly a weak link though in the lineup here, right?
Who?
No, you who?
Well, which one are you looking at?
The
we have
same.
2 pictures on screen.
And they both have all the same characters in them.
No, they don't.
Lies. They just look different.
No, this one on the right has this guy who's not on this one.
Oh, that's the kid that can do that.
Are you thinking she's the weak link?
Oh, you sexist piece of shit. No, I was thinking of Cyclops.
Hello, everybody. This is Load Bearing Beams. I'm Matt Stokes.
And I'm Lacey Roth. And Matt,
Yeah.
where do you get off?
The L stop.
No, where do you get off picking such a banger, my friend? And right after I picked a good one, I just want to say we're on a streak.
Of movies.
Because we're a movie podcast, everybody.
What kind of movie podcast?
A load-bearing beam kind of movie. The kind where you watch them when you're younger, they stick to your craw, you can't ever get them off. They're load-bearing, my guy. So, if you see them later and they suck, it's a bummer. It hurts to lose a beam.
A beam falls off and you can't walk straight the rest of your life. You're wobbling around. Ugh.
Yeah, and you're not going to get your permits.
Equilibrium's
You're not.
off.
You can't resell that shit.
Right. Try fighting City Hall. Am I right?
Oh, my God. Tell me about it.
We are doing X2 and Lacey
I feel like that needs explanation.
I hate the title because X2
X-Men
it's
2.
X-Men 2, but the title is X2.
It sounds like a vitamin or a supplement. I don't like that.
Have you taken your X2? You can get that injected only once a month. X2.
If you and I get divorced, you'll be X2.
That's true. Well, which means I'm the best one.
That's true. Wait, I liked X1 as well.
Yeah.
But you'd still be the best X.
So right up at the top, this movie was directed by Bryan Singer, and he is a rightfully canceled person who has very serious assault allegations against him that we are going to dive into and explain because it is important context. It's important to explain the people, even when they make works that we like. We're gonna unpack all of that. So content warning right here for that. When we get to our history segment and we start talking about them, I will give the content warning again and a timestamp in the episode description so you can skip past all of it if you want to. It was a bummer for me doing all the research. I picked this movie, I'm like, X-Men, that's fun. And then we watched and I was like, that's a fun movie. And then I read, and I'd read all this stuff before I read it when it came out, but just reading years of accounts back to back to back was bummed me out.
When did is it a Me Too surfacing situation?
So there was one in 2014 was a big expose, and then the final one was in 2019. But there was always stuff, always
swirling.
Yeah, it's a sort of Harvey Weinstein thing where it's
Right.
like everybody knows it, but nobody
Open secret.
not even open secret, but it's like
He's
this
just
thing.
a locker room.
He does all
walking
these
around.
things, and then 2017 Me Too happens, and suddenly everybody reviews what they already know and think, not okay. And then more stuff comes out. But again, we'll detail all of that in the history segment. It's, it's like, what do you do when everybody has to make the decision for themselves. Like, what do you do when the movies or the music or the books, whatever that you love was made by bad people? Is there a scale of how bad they are? Or, in a movie, this is a Bryan Singer movie, but it's also a Hugh Jackman movie and a Patrick Stewart movie.
Right.
A Lauren Shuler Donner movie.
I don't mean to put down the effort of what goes into an album, but I guess it does feel it feels a little bit harder to cancel an entire movie because of the large production. I mean, and I certainly wouldn't cancel I guess I would have to cancel an entire band if just one of the main people were a huge problem, like Marilyn Manson.
Well, it's and even when you say cancel, what do we mean?
I mean, I'm not going to use his music in anything that I do. I'm not going to listen to his music. I'm not going to play it for our kid.
Right.
That's what I mean. I mean, I'm it's the same thing I did with Michael Jackson, and I'm considering it for Elvis, honestly.
Well, it's a thing you decide on your own. Our kid was asking about this, like one of the Stranger Things actors did something that they didn't like, and it's like,
well, did something that a lot of people didn't like.
Okay, but
right, what do you do with that?
You're gonna encounter this over and over and over again. But I think the counter to this is people are flawed, people are bad, and I think that if we delete their work entirely, it kind of gives ourselves a pass. Like, well, we don't have to deal with that anymore.
Right, like with tricky feelings of I really still enjoy this thing. What does it mean about me?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, No, yeah, deleting their no. That's whitewashing history, right? That's like taking the wrong words out of old stories and stuff. It's like, well,
Yeah.
how does that suit racism and sexism and transphobia and all those things that we've are evolving past if we don't ever have proof that we ever did need to evolve to
And that
begin
these
with.
things were done not by the Joker or an evil
Right.
villain,
No.
but by people who also
Mainstream.
had good things about them and were complicated and messy and maybe made contributions that you like.
And likely even progressive at the exact same time. That just wasn't the issue of the day. It didn't even occur to them to be progressive in that area yet.
And then with his case as a gay man and as a Jew, to be making these movies that are, you know, metaphors for for Jewish people,
Right.
for gay people, like so much of himself is in it. Yeah,
His hurt, you can say his trauma.
his the way it feels personal to him, the material.
I think I don't know anything about this cancellation and this person, so I did not know he was gay until you just said that. But I know, you know, a podcaster I love, Michael Hobbs, did mention recently that there is this trope and this like past that gay men feel like they have of like they can be the most sexist because like it's funny, you know. So like or the most sexual, or like they lean into, oh, I'm just being a gay person, and that doesn't do anything good for their community or the people they're doing it to. And I, as a non-gay person, I'm so glad I just made that comment. So I hope I made that lovingly, because some of my best friends, just kidding, I mean, they are, but yeah.
So, yes, all of that is preamble for what is a very fun movie. And as I said on our last episode, the X-Men 97 series on Disney Plus has got everybody excited about X-Men. And I was like, boy, I really like those X-Men. I'd like to talk about it on a podcast. And you know what movie I love is X2.
My friend Neo watched it today and is putting out a review about X2 today on TikTok.
Neo!
Neo, damn you. Yeah, so it's in the zeitgeist, whatever it is. Can I make a quick announcement about my bra? Sure. Okay, so I bought a cheap bra and the underwire has like come out of the bottom. So every now and then it just jabs me in my soft tit and it hurts so bad. So if anyone's seen me go like that,
Or if you hear her going, eep,
ow, chihuahua, because that's what I say.
that's why. All right, thanks. So, hey, here's the thing. We've covered another X-Men movie on this podcast before. In 2018, we talked about X-Men 1. And you and I had well, Lacey doesn't remember any movie she watches ever.
Etch-a-sketch.
It is an Etch-a-Sketch. You shake it and it's gone. And we both remembered you not liking this movie. But I went back and listened to our old podcast, and it turns out you did like it.
Because I really liked it this time. So I was like, how much growth have I
Because
had?
we watched X-Men 1 to prepare for this against Lacey's protest, but then the movie started and she liked it.
Fucking liked it right away.
Let's listen. Let's take a trip back
He
in time.
meets the Wolverine, and he gets his claws to come out so he can fight some toughs
one
who
part.
want to beat him up because
Got it.
yeah. And she has this great moment that made you. I know you appreciated this movie because you made this noise. Huh. She says to him about his claws, "When they come out, does it hurt?" And he said, "Every time." Like, oh, see, this is a good movie.
What? I Mandela affected myself. In my head, I thought that was probably the only time I was mean to this movie. You're saying it's the part that let you know I liked it. Hey,
Yeah, because you went, huh.
what a thought.
So we liked it back then. We liked it again now. Other than that, like, Lacey, what is your history with X-Men or just like comic books in general? You ever read a comic?
I've recently discovered we lost electricity for a day, a whole day, when a tornado hit last week, and I've been in this like kick of coloring, doing these like transformation coloring videos for TikTok, and I needed something graphic. I couldn't get the internet, so I needed some source material, and you have all these books of like collections of comic books. It's the whole sets. And I'm like, I just need one character that speaks to me. And I found this one person and I read the whole fucking 3 pages of it, could not figure out her name. It drove me crazy. And I realized comic books may not be for dyslexic people. They're very visual, but there's so much packed in those little squares. And It seems all the characters are doing stuff all at once most of the time. And the box placement of the speech, I can't always tell who it's for. And the incessant use of all caps, plus your need to have known lore and like stuff that happened. I'm like, I was like, this is why I did. I mean, because it's beautiful. I love the art, but
they are impenetrable.
And the over sexualized like women drawings, it's not that it would have been like offensive to me when I was a kid, but it wouldn't have felt like this was something for me, being a very flat, very, I was just like, oh, okay, so the women in this world who get to participate in this look like that. None of them look any different unless they have glasses. So it just didn't feel like it was for me.
It was definitely a boys' club. I mean, yeah, obviously there's billions of women readers and girl readers of comics.
Of course.
So it wasn't a thing you had in your life. I didn't grow up reading comics either. I have read many comics in the past 5 to 10 years, but I still feel kind of like if you don't grow up learning an instrument and then try to take it on as an adult, you kind of feel like I just lack a certain ability to get into this because the literal act of reading on the page confuses me. And I still appreciate it. And there's been comic books that I've loved. But yeah, I feel like I just lack a certain way in.
A graphic novel, is that necessarily the same thing? Or is that more story driven, less action, but just as illustrated?
No, it's not a difference like that.
Okay.
I mean, graphic novel can just mean a comic book or it can mean a collection of comic books.
Because Heartstoppers also has a graphic novel associated with it. And that's just such a straightforward story that I feel like I can follow something like that differently. And I don't need to know a lot of backstory. I don't know. I didn't know if there was a difference.
No.
All right.
There's not. I mean, that was probably published first as a like bound book rather than, a 24-page on kind of shitty paper comic book.
How dare you?
If you read especially like 1960s Marvel comics, just pick up any issue, you can follow it totally without feeling lost.
Okay.
What's hard is just kind of understanding it as a medium. I feel like if you'd never seen a movie before and then you watched a movie, you'd kind of just be overwhelmed.
If I'd never seen a movie before?
Yeah, and then
my
suddenly,
very first one,
watch a movie, just any movie, and you're 34 years old.
God, I don't know if that's an apples to apples. I see what you're trying to do there, but I feel like kids watch movies all the time, but yeah, who knows when it clicks?
Yeah, but they're little mushy brains.
I know, who knows when it clicks. And there's just something very overstimulating and packed about a comic that for certain brains, maybe it's just hard. I don't know if it's me or if it's just that I didn't catch it when I was younger. I wish I could compare it to something else like jazz. Maybe that's why jazz doesn't feel accessible to me either. It's doing a lot. I realize it's an art. I don't get it. And it bothers me. There's certain jazz lists to it. And I'm like, hey, look at me. Yeah. But like the way people who love jazz love it. They are understanding something I will never understand.
Yeah, hey, art,
it's chaos.
Art in a museum, I've often felt like, can I just hire somebody to walk me through and explain what to look at? And
well, yeah, that's called a docent, and you don't have to pay them; they'll just do it. Sure, I guess so. I guess I just feel like I needed something with lots of components, lots of history, lots of technical ability that you don't even know what to be impressed by. It all seems kind of random, but when you realize, no, there is like a very particular skill to getting all of this in one page. Yeah, I need a docent for comic books is what I'm asking. God, do you know how many people are going to apply for this job? Oh,
I read comics on my iPad sometimes, but it's hard because I don't want you to catch me doing it because then I'll be like, it's for research or I don't know.
That's a you problem, man.
Yeah. Okay, but X-Men in general, did you watch the TV show? You're a 90s kid. It was a big show in the 90s.
God, no. Okay. Jesus Christ. Fuck.
Did you know who Wolverine was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know any of the other X-Men?
Storm, maybe. I'm looking at the page right now. I don't even know. Okay, now I just figured out who they are, all of them. But it took a minute. I don't know who the guy with the card deck is.
Gambit. He's not in this movie. Either of the movies we watched.
I only know that's Rogue because of the white streak in her hair. And then stupid fucking Scott with his...
Yeah.
I get it. He's got an eye problem. What kind of toddler was he? I do not know. Just killing everything. Sneezing, killing a grandfather. Red light. You know?
It must have been something. Just
Okay.
must have been. What a childhood.
That is the most interesting thing to me is like, oh, you know what? They cover that, don't they? They say that the majority of mutants, their powers are onset during puberty. So they cover that, right? You can't have a little shape-shifting baby and you lose track of your baby. It's the dog and then it's the neighbor. You can't,
Right.
You need some puberty.
And hey, if you're listening to this and you know about baby Cyclops, good for you. I don't. I'm not an expert. I never said I'm an expert on the X-Men.
We didn't say. We just really like the 2 movies, okay?
Yes.
And we hear there's more.
And in the history I'm going to give, I'm sure I'm going to get a million things wrong. I apologize. You're right. I suck.
I didn't see this one coming. I didn't see this one as being the overwhelming history episode, but all right.
Let's start off with our predictions. Lacey made a prediction.
I'll never be excited to hear these. X-Men 2. I'm excited about this. I did not expect to like X-Men 1 as much as I did. I had a bad remembrance of it, but like so many other fucking times, I was wrong and stupid and dumb, and I've learned. It was actually really heartwarming. So I'm ready for my heart to be warmed. I'm hoping they didn't spend all the money on just more action, because I liked the lack of it, honestly. I'm a storytelling kind of gal. What can I fucking say? So, X people, here we come.
All right. I think Lacey needs to be canceled for insinuating that action is not storytelling.
The fuck kind of fire are you coming at me with? Jesus. I meant that I like more dialogue. Sorry, I used the wrong word.
Dialogue is storytelling, but action is not.
What is wrong with you?
You said I'm a storytelling gal.
Those are the parts of the movie that don't confuse me. I like to dissect people and why they do what they do. Those are just the parts. When a lot of stuff is happening on the screen too often, which can happen in superhero movies, I get bored. Mm-hmm. That was my point. Wow, what is wrong with you? Why are you trying to start something?
You started it with that.
No, you're trying to start something not between us, but between like other people. That's mean.
Well, I think you shouldn't have said it because you love the John Wick movies. You love Mission Impossible.
Yeah, those are action sequences done by the actual performers. So there's less cuts. It's all the cuts. It's the action happening between giant groups that I don't like. I fucking love John Wick and I love Mission Impossible. Those are seamless, beautifully shot things. I'm saying action does not equal interest for me. It has to be done well.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I agree. It needs to be. I think action done poorly is really boring. I just wanted to clarify that you don't actually think that action is not storytelling.
You can come at me with less heat. Like, I don't need more haters. People already think I'm a woman.
What? Why would they think that?
They don't like it. I tell you.
Who hates you?
No, it's not my opinions. Strange people who don't listen to the podcast in full, who just hear it in clips or hear my fucking shit takes.
Well, fuck them.
I know, but I'm saying I get less leeway because of my titties, and you don't need to help those people with that, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
I see what you're saying. Maybe. Okay.
All right, it's okay.
But I would join the mob for that one.
I would deserve your death punishment.
You felt excited about this movie, and it seemed like you liked it. Fine.
I did like it fine.
Okay, good. Here's my prediction.
Sure.
Have you tried not making a prediction? I can't help it. I have to predict. There's nothing that much to predict because I just watched this movie 2 years ago and thought it was great. I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. In my ranking of superhero films, I have it at number 2 of all time. So I guess the question is, will I be that effusive in my praise this time around? You know, I unfortunately, it can only go down in my esteem because I liked it so much 2 years ago, but we just watched X-Men 1 a few nights ago, thought it was very, very solid. Looking forward to this movie. Think it'll be a lot of fun. Think it'll be good.
I'm sorry I used my soundboard. I thought I was just going to say hubba hubba, and I forgot that is the longest fucking sound.
Yeah, we need to relabel that to don't use.
Yeah, don't use. My boob.
Eep.
Also, why are you using "We Wish You a Merry Christmas"?
Because it's an arcade sound. I wanted the X-Men arcade kind of feeling.
Okay.
Did it go down in my estimation? I will admit it went down like 10%.
Okay.
I still love it. I still think it's one of the best ever superhero movies. I think when I watched it 2 years ago, I hadn't seen it in forever. I think
you were
I
more.
was really surprised by how engaged with it I was.
Well, and I would say 2 years ago would have been a great spot for you to be overly saturated with a lot of superhero content, and we've had a little bit of a respite. I think people have heard us all screaming less.
Yeah, I know. Listening to the old episode from 2018, like that was when, and I
Had Endgame come out?
no, it was like Infinity War was about to come out, but
Okay.
back then it's like, Marvel, the biggest company, the biggest movie studio in the world, they're doing great. Everything they do is great. We love it. Thank you, Mickey. Thank you, Disney. Thank you, Kevin Feige.
It was definitely a bubble, and it burst, and we all felt it.
And it violently burst. And now I watch these X-Men movies and see how much smaller they are, how much more personality
Yep.
they have, how much more grounded they are, how much better the action is. I find them so much more appealing than anything the MCU has put out in years and years.
I like how few resources they have. I mean, they have at the same time these amazing facilities and a jet, but there's just so few adults, and I get that that's actually probably a product of the lower budget. But as soon as they capture in the second one the professor and Laser Eyes, Cyclops, I like that immediately. I went, who's gonna help? There's like, can you get a kid? That's not ethical. I just like that they kind of all stay together. We're not like, and over here we're catching up with the Hulk, and over here we need to check in with whoever.
I know.
It's just, it all feels so, I feel the panels of the comics go by. Like, it's like, can we just stick with the core
And
people here?
in X2, the big climactic action sequence at the end, you are cutting between multiple different people, but they're all in the same thing, working toward the same goal.
That's different. While Wolverine is going through his epic fight, I'm thinking they really could use you over by the dam area. But so his absence is missed. It's not like he shows up and I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's in this fucking franchise. Let's go. They just get attached more. Also, it's nice to have two old men. Of whatever race, it doesn't matter, but and for them to kind of be, I don't know, I feel like it's such a young person's thing, but in these movies, there's these two old dudes who started all this, and they kind of get to, they're important, and they stay important, and we're not like, just like, oh, remember when Gandalf was alive, or whatever the fuck it
My
is.
number one favorite thing about these movies, that you have these two old British theater actors with amazing faces being allowed to drive the plot to just hold the screen, just their old fucking faces on screen with so much gravitas, so much character, so not even saying words. Let's talk about the history. Let's talk about the history of the X-Men. This is a super brief history of the X-Men.
Right.
Again, not a comic expert. Uncanny X-Men was the name of the comics line. It launched in 1963 during the boom of the Silver Age of comics, and Marvel Comics is basically the height of their popularity when Spider-Man gets created, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, X-Men, created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, whose real names were, and many people have pointed this out, Stanley Lieber and Jacob Kurtzberg. And they must have really identified with these characters who are trying to, pass into society. These two Jewish men who are trying to like fit in New York society in a very, Gentile dominated world. But the metaphor of the X-Men, it's very flexible, and that's why it's so great. You can read race into it, gender, sexuality.
Kind of interesting that, it's a very gendered title they have, the X-Men, but what's happened in society is that we use X to stand in for when we don't want to gender something. So
That's true.
It's funny that it ended up combining the two things.
Yeah, that's true. Can I ask you I like to sometimes take your temperature because you know what sort of normal people know. Mm-hmm. What do you know about how comic fans feel about Stan Lee?
Oh God, I guess I just assume he's beloved. Anyone that's like willing to show his face all the time, I mean, must think people like seeing it. Isn't he like a real man of the people? Doesn't he like go to Comic-Cons and shit?
That very man of the people, face of the industry.
Yeah.
is why he's such a villain to comic book fans.
Oh, well,
Because he was
he
great
doesn't give credit, right? He takes credit.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you said Jack Kirby and you put his name first, I think I remember a documentary about that.
We watched, you're thinking of the guy who co-created Batman, Bill Finger? No. Yes, it was a
I did watch
documentary about
that.
Batman, and that was the long battle. Batman was only ever credited to Bob Kane, and then finally, in the past 10 years, they added Bill Finger, who, in that case, I think literally worked for Bob Kane as his assistant. What?
If he used the other way that you could do a nickname for William, he will finger.
Will I am Finger?
No, just Will Finger.
Oh.
That's not
Will
good.
Finger.
All right.
Yeah, where he literally like worked as Bob Kane's direct employee. So he's like, everything you do, I own. So
Right.
therefore you never actually got the credit. He's been given credit, him and his heirs lost out on tens of millions of dollars.
I'm telling you that I specifically know the name Jack Kirby. So
Well, I mean, he's a giant of the comic book industry. He was the artist and Stan Lee was the words guy.
Got it.
And that was how it was presented. But then when you learn about how they actually worked, you start to see, it seems like Jack's doing maybe 80% of the contributing here, because their method was Stan Lee would be like, in this issue, Spider-Man's going to do this. And,
Okay.
Steve Ditko is Spider-Man. But
So here's A and C. You figure out how that happens.
I think that a more traditional way would be the writer would give an actual script and like, here's
Right.
what's going to happen on this page and this page and this page. Whereas Stan Lee gives you a one paragraph and then the artist does every single panel, and then Stan Lee adds dialogue and captions and stuff.
Yeah.
When you see that it's done like that, you're like, well, okay, the artist is also the one doing the writing. You're just
Right.
You're writing dialogue, but dialogue isn't the only thing, and captions, there's not the only thing.
You're the punch-up guy. Also, who's to say that his drawings aren't what's inspiring? Not like Stan Lee knew how they were going to get there. He's like, oh, that's a good way to get there.
Yeah.
There's a tank. I'll write something about a tank here.
And then, if you say, like with Steve Ditko, the other artist, Stan Lee says, a boy gets bitten by a spider, becomes a Spider-Man.
He turns into he goes through puberty.
And then the guy draws the iconic costume. What are people actually
Right.
gravitating to?
Right.
So I know that there was so much pushback and backlash against Stan Lee that maybe he gets too little credit. I
Okay.
find he was obviously very important, and he was management. He was the editor of the comics, and he was able to give himself that credit. But that's okay.
All right. Gum, that was brief. Woo.
So brief. Okay.
what
But X-Men in the beginning were not very popular. Spider-Man was popular. Fantastic Four was popular. The Avengers were more popular. So the line was canceled in 1970. And then it was revived 5 years later. Writer Chris Claremont, artist John Byrne, among others, revived the comic line. And by the 80s, they were the most popular characters in Marvel Comics. Wolverine was the breakout star. It was the best-selling comic that they had through the 80s and the 90s. You had the giant TV show.
There's clearly a weak link though in the lineup here, right?
Who?
No, you who?
Well, which one are you looking at?
What? They're both
we
the
have
same.
two pictures on screen.
And they both have all the same characters in them.
No, they don't.
Lies. They just look different.
No, this one on the right has this guy who's who's not on this one.
Oh, that's the kid that can do that.
Are you thinking she's the weak link?
Oh, you sexist piece of shit. No, I was thinking of Cyclops. It's so
Cyclops?
stupid. And the
Yeah.
name is so dumb. And a Cyclops is a very specific thing in lore. It doesn't look like that fucking model. I'm such a Cyclops.
And Cyclops as a character is the drip. He's the serious-minded leader who's like, guys, stop having fun and focus on the mission.
May I ask who the blue is?
He's
Okay.
the Beast. We haven't met him in the movies
That
yet.
wasn't very creative.
No.
Okay, so who's the one you thought I thought was weak?
I thought you thought Jubilee was weak.
Interesting.
The girl with the yellow raincoat.
I'm looking at her, but well, then who's the other sassy thing? Oh, that must be Dr. Phoenix.
This is, Jean Grey.
Got it.
Okay. In the 90s, the TV show's going strong, and Marvel wants to work on a live action movie. It's a very weird time for superhero movies. The
Yeah.
Batman movies inspired other studios to make superhero or to make comic book adaptations, not out of the really popular superhero titles, but let's make movies out of the Phantom and the Shadow, because Batman was noir and dark, and that must be what people liked.
Okay.
In 2000, it's when the first X-Men movie comes out. It's the first live action Marvel movie, or the first big one. And they choose to direct it Bryan Singer. Now, who is Bryan Singer? He is, and again, everybody, we're going to get into the sexual assault allegations. Content warning. We have a timestamp in the description. Just skip to it if you want to skip past all this. It'll be titled movie discussion. Just click that and jump ahead. Okay, Bryan Singer. And it's a very complicated story involving all kinds of different, it's a big web of stuff because it involves like a tech startup. It's entwined with all his movies and all these parties he was hosting. So I'm going to try to boil it down. I know I'm going to get stuff wrong. I apologize. And I have a list of sources in the episode description because there's a lot of great reporting.
I'm already impressed.
That I used. Bryan Singer directed the first two X-Men movies. The movie we're talking about, X2, he would have been 38 years old when he made that. He got his start with a low-budget independent movie called Public Access. Won acclaim at Sundance. Like a lot of filmmakers at the time, Sundance was a launching off point for a Hollywood career. And he made it with his friend and longtime collaborator, Christopher McQuarrie, who right now runs the Mission Impossible franchise. 1995, he has his big commercial breakthrough with The Usual Suspects. A huge success critically and commercially. Won an Oscar for Best Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor for Kevin Spacey. Another
I was just going to ask, like, were they best friends?
I mean,
game recognized game.
It is I was looking for Spacey's name in all these exposés and didn't see it, like, but he kind of had his own parallel criminal organization going.
Right.
Allegedly. Don't sue me, Kevin Spacey, because he wins all his lawsuits now.
We have no money.
Okay.
Apt Pupil. I remember that one.
Well, wait. Have you seen Usual Suspects?
I remember loving Usual Suspects. It's got a great ending.
I watched it a few nights ago. I saw it when I was a teenager. I didn't like it back then. I watch it now. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So much of it kind of created cliches that now the way it ends with Spacey delivering his mutton just like that, he's gone.
Right. Yeah. And it's like every franchise cartoon will do one. Like there's I know there's a Family Guy one.
The Chasma Palminteri realizing, wait a minute, everything he told me is from this bulletin board behind here. Yeah.
That.
Yep. But yeah, it is really good. And obviously this guy knows how to direct ensembles. He's a very energetic filmmaker. He can handle large action sequences, and just has a sort of propulsive energy to his movies that you definitely see in the X-Men movies as well. Okay. But Usual Suspects is a big hit, and he's a major filmmaker during the wave, the Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez wave. And for his next project, he had personally optioned the rights to Stephen King's book, Apt Pupil, for $1 million. Apt Pupil, I read a few years ago because I'm working on reading every Stephen King book. I had no idea what it was about, and I love
Isn't it about Nazis?
Yeah, it's like a top 5 Stephen King for me. Really love it. And I considered watching the movie, but after doing all this research, I'm glad I didn't because it was a bummer.
Oh, what? Who's this actor?
This is Brad Renfro, who was a teenage actor from Tom and Huck and like The Client.
Yeah, that's what he looks like. I feel like his little face right there looks just like the Client movie poster.
Yep. And he died of a drug overdose at age 25. In the Atlantic article that spoke to Singer's accusers, it said that Brad Renfro was often referred to as Bryan Singer's boyfriend when he would have been only 14 years old.
Oh my God.
So you can make the leap that he was a troubled person. This movie is about a teenager who meets his neighbor who turns out to be a Nazi criminal who's living in secrecy. And they form this weird symbiotic relationship where the Nazi tells him stories about the death camps and all the stuff he did. And then the kid blackmails him, but then the kid starts getting obsessed with Nazis. And there's a scene where he takes a shower at his high school and then the shower morphs into a gas chamber. For this scene, they had extras. They had teenage extras who were told you won't have to be nude, but a lot of them ended up nude. And
oh my God.
Bryan Singer and the production were sued. And this was reported at the time. In 1997, that these minors were told to get naked on screen. This sequence was eventually deleted and replaced with adult actors being nude, and the production and Bryan Singer settled the lawsuits for undisclosed sums and non-disclosure agreements. So that was what was known at the time, but later it's going to come out that an extra who was 13 years old at the time said Bryan Singer approached him personally in the locker room and it's like, hey, you're really cool and you're really good looking. Hey, I hope you're having a good time, and kept kind of giving him a lot of attention. And then eventually molested him, groped him in the locker room. And what you see again and again with these victims of his is they're like, They're teenage boys. They feel like they both did something wrong and also like flattered that this big Hollywood superstar
Right.
is giving them so much attention. And then eventually he moves on
Right.
and just leaves them, traumatized. And the lawsuits about the extras was known at the time, at least by the public, but still he gets hired to direct X-Men and later X-Men 2. And they were both big
Which
hits.
has children.
Yeah,
There are lots of fucking superhero movies that don't need a whole bunch of children.
that's true. The actor who plays Pyro in X-Men 1 sued 3 of Bryan Singer's friends for raping him on the set of X-Men 1.
Oh my God.
He did not return for X2, in which Pyro is an actual major character. That's the other thing is Bryan Singer like has all these hangers on and business associates who are like also doing shit, also are just around. And at the same time, he has like he's very chaotic and erratic on set. He will show up on drugs, unable to work. Rebecca Roman Stamos had to put on hours of makeup to play Mystique. And then he'd just decide, we're not going to use you today after all. He moved up a stunt involving Hugh Jackman a day when the stunt coordinator wasn't on set. As a result, Hugh Jackman got injured. And it's like, he just felt like doing the stunt that day. So, but his movies make money and they're well received. So it's, the studios are like, we've put up with less from auteur directors in the past.
Put up with more,
sorry. I have an example of a fight on set between Singer and his producer, and the studio supported Bryan Singer over the producer, but the producer was like an advocate for the actors, and apparently all the actors got together, went into Bryan Singer's trailer and said, like, if you don't bring him back, we're all walking off the movie. Halle Berry famously told him, "You can kiss my black ass." So you have the simultaneous sex crime allegations and also unprofessional and erratic.
Right. Just he's doing all of it.
But also like, hey man, if this were the 70s, if this were the swinging 70s and I was Marty Scorsese or something, this would all just be like, it's all part of the charm, baby. He does not return for X-Men 3. That goes to Brett Ratner instead. X-Men 3 sucks.
No.
The series kind of continues in a weird direction. There's X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is a prequel all about Wolverine. And then they start a series of prequels, like a young Professor X and a young Magneto. And, but finally Bryan Singer is going to come back, bring Hugh Jackman back for Days of Future Past in 2014. And a month before that movie comes out, Bryan Singer gets hit with a lawsuit about a minor who accused him of raping him repeatedly over the course of 2 years. And this got a lot of attention. And there was this BuzzFeed profile of his like hard partying lifestyle that I remember reading at the time. I remember reading while you and I were on our ill-fated cruise in 2014. And it's funny because it's if this exact story with the exact same wording came out 4 years later, you'd be like, okay, well, this guy, he's canceled forever. But at the time, it's just like, well, who knows what's right, what's real. And then eventually this lawsuit gets the plaintiff withdraws the lawsuit because they catch some inconsistencies in his story. And later
God forbid you be 12 to 14 years old or 14 to 16 years old and then become an adult that's prepared to say something. Who can remember? Oh my God.
And then after that, the plaintiff, the person who had sued him, was convicted of fraud. And so Bryan Singer's like, see, I told you, he's a liar. Everything he said was untrue. But a few years later, this exact lawsuit will be viewed very differently a few years into the future. But X-Men Days of Future Past is a big success. People like it. His career is...
Sounds like the big issue here is before Me Too, besides a lot of other things. Either he's very smart and he strategically grooms one person, sticks to one person for a while. It always seems like the action happens when there's 2 or 3 or 4 people who have this, it seems it's one person, then time, one person. And it's just easier to refute when multiple kids aren't saying the same thing.
The impression I get is that he was not careful at all and that it wasn't like that. It was just whatever I want to do, whatever's going on.
Oh, okay.
And if you accuse me of anything, I'll call you homophobic. I'll say you wouldn't care if I were a straight director hanging out with young women. And he's hosting these elaborate parties attended by young men, but also teenage boys. He has his scouts going to get him teenage boys. It is, it's fucked up. I'll say that. He directs another X-Men movie, X-Men Apocalypse, and then he gets hired to direct Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, really?
In 2017, the Me Too movement starts. People are starting to re-examine what they already know about Bryan Singer. But he gets fired from Bohemian Rhapsody not for that, but because he is unprofessional on set and doesn't return from a Thanksgiving break. And this was not the first time he had ever just not shown up for work.
One day or like
for days. But even like one day, I mean, these are giant movies. These are $100 million or more productions. We've never worked on a movie, but we've worked at conferences and stuff. And just think if the person who has to be there to make the decisions is just not there, what everybody there does. Like,
right.
So, and like, the cinematographer has to take over, or there's the director, or the studio says, all right, shut down. We'll lose $1 million every day. After all of this, he gets fired. But because he had filmed 2/3 of the movie, he keeps his name as the director under DGA rules. He makes $40 million off of this movie because it's such a huge hit.
Who's the co-director? Like, what is their title?
Executive producer. It was Dexter Fletcher took over. Yeah. The DGA
horseshit.
sorts these things out. And
Also, who decides what gets cut? Like, I feel like the real movie is made in the editing bay, right? So, like, if he's not doing that part, deciding what parts are even going to end up in the movie, whatever. It's bullshit.
That's what guilds do. Is this happens more with writing? Is they look at the whole thing and decide who's going to get the actual credit.
Gotcha.
I think Dexter Fletcher said Bryan shot most of this movie. He hired the crew and the cast.
All right,
it's his movie. I'm just here to finish it out.
Okay.
But this movie was a big hit. It sucks, but it was a big hit.
I didn't mind it.
And it wins a Best Actor, but everybody in the whole award circuit, nobody ever mentions Bryan Singer's name. He's persona non grata. Then in 2019, the Atlantic article that I used finally comes out where they talk to so many of his victims, and this is basically the nail in his coffin in his career. He hasn't directed a movie since then. That's Bryan Singer.
I have never been more depressed through one of these moments.
I know. And it's X-Men 2 is a very fun movie. We'll have fun talking about it, but it is important to remember that the people who make the stuff you like can be pieces of shit and also can do things that you like. The picture opens with the classic Marvel opening of just some flickering comic book pages. Very slight. It's over very quickly. So much of this episode is going to be, how everything sucks today and was better back then, just from the opening. Now, look at all our movies.
They still do that opening, don't they?
No, they play footage from all their fucking movies, and it goes on for 35 seconds. This is just comic books, and then that's it.
Oh.
And then Patrick Stewart, narration.
And then straight to CGI credits that look nice.
The CGI credits look, okay, and they're over very quickly. But Patrick Stewart, mutation. It was the dawn of our species.
It's the dawn of species.
Every one of these movies opens with him doing the narration. Here's the thing about mutants.
You gotta call him sir. He earned his title.
Sorry, sir.
It's okay.
But they end very quickly and then always end on the vault locking on Cerebro. And then here's the thing he says.
It's not cerebral.
No, Cerebro.
Oopsies, because it's only for the men.
Imagine a lady named Suri.
No. It's only for the men. That's how I'll remember.
Gotcha.
Bro.
And he says, sharing the world is something humanity has never been humanity's defining attribute. Cool. Because later they're talking about Neanderthals in the museum, and Neanderthals and humans used to exist on the world at the same time, but then humans were like, I don't think so. I guess we didn't mention the writers of this movie. Michael Dougherty, Dan Harris, David Hayter are credited with the screenplay. Zach Penn has a story by credit. And what do you think of the music in this movie, of the score?
Well, I didn't notice it. So that usually means it was good, but not great.
It's by John Ottman, who's also an editor. He's the rare editor-musician combo. He often works with Bryan Singer.
Editor of what? Editor of film?
Of the movie, yeah.
Not of...
Like music by John Ottman, editing by John Ottman.
Yeah, that seems...
He won
excessive.
the Oscar for Best Editing for Bohemian Rhapsody, despite that, or maybe because of that viral video of how bad the editing in that movie is. Like there's a scene with them like meeting their manager and it cuts like 100 times.
And then he won?
He won, yes.
Because they felt so bad for him?
Maybe.
I think you just said because of it.
Well, I think that there is a sort of Oscar like reactionary, like, don't tell us what's good editing.
Okay.
Hipsters on the internet.
Got it. Don't tell us you had a slight seizure. You
Right.
You didn't. It was fine. Art.
But the X-Men theme, I think it's fine. It's not iconic in the way that like the Batman or the Superman
Right.
or even the Spider-Man themes are, but it gets the job
You're telling
done.
me there's a theme, and you're absolutely right. I have nothing in my head from
Yep.
it. I'm still singing from our Overboard episode. That's all I've been singing for 5 days.
No, boy.
We're in the waters now.
Joanna Annie.
Don't you throw those tools in there, where's Grandpa?
Nightcrawlers in the White House.
Okay, now, good segue.
Yeah.
Here we are. I was pretty scared of this creature with this opening mutant. I was thinking, put those. They need to be in a jail.
Put
Those
'em down.
That's scary. Well, he just seemed infinite in his ability to do stuff, and I was thinking, Magneto's been stacking his deck. This guy is good, and I guess he's replacing your lizard guy because this one's also got a tail.
Yep.
You needed
there's
another tail
we
guy.
had an opening for a tail guy.
We needed
This is
an overly make-upped man.
Nightcrawler, and we don't know what's going on with him, but he has invaded the White House, and this actually looks really good. The
does.
CGI of him disappearing and
Very.
then reappearing, and he fights the guards in slow motion, and they have like really good wire work of the people just flipping in
I
the
was
air.
gonna
in
say
slow
I'd be interested to see like what is the actor actually doing during this time, and what's not him. Handy to have all that makeup for
It's
Alan Cummings. What if he has vertigo? We don't know.
It is a good mixture of CGI with just classic put people on a wire and yank them real fast.
A little yank.
And well, I should say first we have a tour guide introducing the quote from Lincoln's first inaugural: "We are not enemies but friends. We must not be enemies." And again, this is very blunt. The politics in this movie are very like on the sleeve and broad, but they're so much more effective than anything movies do today. Just by having that simple quote, Lincoln announcing to the Confederacy, like, we don't have to have this war. We're friends. And it's also what's going on in this movie. This is a cool sequence. The guards managed to prevent him from assassinating the president with a knife that says "Mutant Freedom Now." And then we check in with old Logan, a.k.a. Wolverine, who is in.
Knowing the plot and what actually happened here, it now explains the very. It's clearly someone faking a war that would write something so hack. Mutant freedom now. It's like, this is what they'd say to people and stab them with it.
Sure, yes. It's
Spoiler.
like it's like if Dick Cheney doctored the 9/11 footage to put on the planes, like
Pow,
Iraq,
pow, pow.
like,
No.
love Saddam.
Right. We love them so much.
So
Our oil is mined. It's ours.
it's my precious oily.
This part of the movie is so like non-important to me, where Wolverine's like looking around. Well, maybe because it's snow. As soon as
You
there's
hate
snow,
snow.
I check out.
You hate snow.
But it's just Wolverine's not with his pack. But I forgot that at the end of the first movie, the Professor X, all right, tells him the coordinates of something, and he just checks out the coordinates, goes, "That's not what I thought," and he walks away.
'Cause
He's there for 10 minutes.
Because of his power, he can regenerate. He doesn't know how old he is. He doesn't have any
Right.
memories before a certain period of time, kind of an overboard situation. And Professor X says, maybe go up here. And he
Poke
does.
around.
I love Hugh Jackman in this movie and in these movies. I think in this movie, he doesn't have that clearly defined an arc. Like, it's just
Sure.
kind of like, what's the deal with my past? Maybe it's this.
He's
Ugh.
truly like a side character in this, because I really think they let the old men shine in this one.
I think he's very much the lead. He just doesn't have a traditional like hero's journey to go on, because I feel like his hero's journey from the first movie of I don't fit in anywhere, maybe I fit in here, is like complete. And now he's like, well, I like my new mutant family and I will protect them.
Well, but he does still seem very distracted by figuring out what's going on. And then when he gets really close to the closest he ever gets, when he realizes he recognizes and knows this doctor, he does put the kids in danger, and at least himself in danger. And it's Dr. Gray's whole thing with him. And it kind of makes you think, oh, she'd be into him if she thought he'd stick around. And so it's the whole movie's alluding to, like, is he going to stay? He just walks away. I don't know. He's always by himself. He's going to come back.
But and
he's a pack animal.
Because Hugh Jackman plays him so likably, you're like, of course you're not going to abandon the kids just to chase you,
Right.
just to find yourself.
Oh, I got you. So if there is an arc, we didn't buy in. It's like, oh, come on. You're just looking at the guys. You're fine. All right. So the first time we see the school kids again, the academy squad, if you will, they're on a field trip. Kind of risky. The only thing that bothers me about the school in general is that it's every age kid, and they all seem to be at the same classes all the time, the same field trips all the time, and it just feels like, I know you're all mutants, but that doesn't mean you're all nice kids. You know what I'm saying? It just seems a little dangerous to be mixing them all together.
I liked when the movie ends with Xavier having like his class come into his office, and it's like this beautiful
40-year-old man,
and you're like, wait, what class is this?
It's just, fucking professor's gonna tell us about his childhood again. Jesus Christ. And they didn't understand.
Tell us about some book.
Okay. So they're at the Natural History Museum, and it's fine. They're showing them around some stuff, and Dr. Gray is having a hard time ever since she spent some time in Cerebro, and is like kind of seeing everything at once, and just feels like something terrible is going to happen. But then all of a sudden she kind of focuses, and she's like, the food court. And so cut smash to teens being teens, and something's up with the vibes of Pyro. Also his name's Pyro, so duh. But they're just farting around with some non-mutant kids and not being too shy about, they're not keeping their powers super secret, which is like, how could you? It's like the coolest thing about you. I don't know how you wouldn't be constantly trying to let them show. It just seems like a big risk to take the entirety of the school, everyone's identity, everyone who's not out as a mutant, but then attach it to these other kids who are being less responsible with their powers. You kind of end up telling everybody's business by showing off that you're in a mutant school. You know what I'm saying?
It's what sucks about being a mutant is like, or at least for Professor Xavier, he's like, we have to be the best of the best of the best. We turn the other cheek. When some normal humans are being a dick to you, you might be tempted to light them on fire. Don't do it. Don't do it. But you also see why.
Which is why this school needs a sorting hat. And then Pyro would have clearly gone to Magneto.
Yes.
And like, don't like the system. You don't want to be a good boy. You want to be a bad boy. Gryffindor.
You put them all in one place, you can surveil them, keep up with what's going on. If you're like, Pyro's off with Rogue, she's a good girl. Nothing bad's going to happen.
She goes rogue. Anyway, so hijinks happens, and Pyro gets himself into a situation that's not cool. So for the first time, we get to see that Professor Xavier can freeze all people except the people he wants, I guess, because he's so connected to every single being.
Yeah.
That seems exhausting. No wonder he's always in a chair. Tired.
I will never not be impressed in a movie whenever a crowd of extras just stops moving.
I know.
It's always effective in a bunch of M. Night Shyamalan movies. It happens in these movies. Probably happens in another movie too.
But how shitty to be the one person who has to sneeze and you're like, I'm sorry. I know I'm getting $30 today. I ruined this $1 million shot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
what editing's for.
I guess if I were smarter, I'd have looked into like, wait a minute, they're not actually standing still. This is in the edit, right?
Yeah, I can't tell. And I'm looking.
I'm looking with my fine-tooth comb.
And here comes, I noticed the Logan connection here. Logan
Roy, fuck off.
Logan is Wolverine.
Yeah, he is. You're right.
I want you to play with me with this one, Matt. God, I just want you to go, oh my God. Okay, yeah.
Okay,
but anyway,
let's do it again. Let's do it again. What's his name?
Anyway, Logan can never not.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, I mean, this actor who I don't know his name, but I love him from Succession.
Brian Cox.
Of course he is. He just can't. With that voice, you can't be a nice sweetie. You just can't. This man's up to something immediately. I just assume he's driven by a kind of a trope in these things, which is that, something dangerous, I'm going to make it into a military weapon. So that's what I think his deal is when he's talking to the president and stuff. I think he's speaking on behalf of the military industrial complex. I don't know his larger beef with the mutants, but you
can tell he has one. He's been like,
absolutely.
Even before this has been my whole life's mission. Every time I talk to anyone in power, they're like, let me guess, Stryker, you're upset about mutants.
And finally, something happens enough to scare the president that he's ready to strike, if you will. And I don't remember his actual goal to go in there. I feel like he just kind of got lucky.
To go in to see the president?
Yeah, like, did he get some information in that moment? No, I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up. Like, I guess he already knew what he was going to do, which was go see Magneto in his plastic prison and get information from him. I don't fucking remember.
So Magneto told him where Xavier's school is. So now he's going to the president and he's like, you were just attacked by a mutant.
You already knew that.
Here, I know about this place, this weird mutant school where they train Hamas fighters. I'm sorry, I mean mutants. Can I go in and maybe
Kill a couple people?
And the president's like, okay, fine, but listen, William, don't you do any violence, mister. And he's
Not
like,
to any civilians, you hear?
I sure won't, Mr. President. I sure won't. This is the most obvious thing in the world, but this is 2003. This is obviously a Dick Cheney figure. He's like, my whole life I've wanted to invade Iraq. A thing happened. Time to invade Iraq. And nobody else wants to do it, but here's my moment. I've been waiting forever for this to happen. Although in this case, he literally made it happen. But the Senator Kelly, has been Mystique this whole time since the last movie. And the good thing about this is a good sequel idea of the enemy from the previous movie now seems like, well, you're not so bad in comparison to how much of a threat the new guy is, because now Mystique representing the Magneto interests is kind of seems like a moderate now.
Right. Like she's trying to keep things temperate. Like, okay, this all worked out. It could have been much worse. But she also probably, while her guy who she's so attached to, her main mutant, is in captivity, that's not when you want things to get really bad, because then they're going to get really bad for your mentor.
Yep,
just your mutantor.
Just keep things steady for now. Brian Cox has the amazing line to Senator
Is it amazing?
Kelly. Yes.
It's fucking gross. Why are they doing that at Woodstock?
Don't lecture me about war, Senator Kelly. I was piloting Black Ops missions in the jungles of North Vietnam while you're sucking your mama's teeth. At Woodstock.
At Woodstock.
Good.
You don't nurse a baby at Woodstock, man.
Colonel Stryker leaves, and then we stand on Senator Kelly, and then the eyes turn Mystique for a minute just for our benefit, the audience. Remember, this is Mystique.
I thought he was going to turn into a jellyfish. Because that's his whole thing last time, right? Like, but I'm now a thing.
But that's the real Senator Kelly, who is now dead, is the one who turned into the jellyfish in the last movie.
Right. Oh, right. He turned into water. Yeah.
And the Mystique thing, on our episode from 2018, we're like, okay, if you can turn into anybody, just turn into the president and launch nukes or something. Or how about instead of this cuck senator, turn into the president instead?
Fine, but it's harder to keep tabs on the president when you're just one person. You're just Mystique. You can look like him. That doesn't mean you can pull it off. With the guy that's dead, at least she knows she can be him as long as she wants. Except for, what about his fucking family? No, what about his family?
I guess she's living. She has to have dinner with his wife.
He has sex with his wife and kisses the grandchildren. Like what? Like to keep seeing her dead husband on TV.
Going
like, why
to soccer
won't
practice.
you come home? What?
That's the Disney Plus series we need.
Okay.
Is Mystique having to be this guy?
That poor widow. She's gonna have to mourn him twice.
I know.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Plastic prison is now where we are. We got to look at the plastic prison before and the last one, and now we get to really get into this. Clear furniture was a big deal during 2003, so I'm sure the teens were like, yes.
We got to go back.
This
folks.
looks great.
I want everything to look like this.
This is how you want our house would be so full of shit stains if there's just smears of shit. If this is how clear and perfect our house
I take it back. Then you're right.
Just poop everywhere.
I just read Stephen King's Under the Dome, and a thing that happens in the book
dome
is that the dome starts getting smeared, and it looks like shit now. Yeah, I guess we already talked about how Magneto has under torture given Stryker information.
That's why I thought you did that out of order, but okay. Anyway, yeah, he gets the information he wants. He did not feel good telling him that. Like, he seems sad. I can't think of another instance. I know there are some where just your super uber scary villain guy he's chill. He can play nice. He can align his interests, but you never know. Is there real love in his heart, or is there just a lot of anger, and he'll make alliances where he needs to really just kind of see through his original plan. You don't know where his actual loyalties are. He does keep calling Dr. Xavier old friend, which I found nice, but can you really be friends with somebody who's that what is the word I'm looking for? Vengeance-y?
Well, it's like we were friends for so long. I will always love you. But what's great about Magneto is he is actually ideological in a way that villains in comic book movies usually aren't. They say that they're, Bane in The Dark Knight Rises
Like
says
Thanos?
Thanos kind of is ideological.
That's what I'm
too.
saying.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the only one else I can think of that will do the horrible thing that's going to hurt so many because he's trying to think more logically about the bigger picture.
But they'll usually start off by saying, here's what I want and what I believe in, and then reveal it's actually just because I want power.
Right.
But in Magneto's case, he actually is motivated to protect mutants and mutant supremacy. Right. Charles Xavier is a mutant, so no, my quarrel is not with you.
But I will kill other mutants.
If you get in my way.
And I will seek out your favorite mutants, and you only have 4. That's not nice. There's so many.
Yeah.
Why do you have to kill one of his 4?
Back at the mansion at the
boom, 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 boom. Back at the mansion.
Logan is riding in the back of a truck.
I need that on here.
And he arrives back home. Everyone greets Logan. We love you so much. Welcome back.
Rogue hears or smells him or something.
Yeah. She hears a motorcycle rev.
Oh.
Logan's back. Oh, hey, let's say this about Anna Paquin real quick. On our last episode, we said, I think she's from Louisiana or Mississippi. We were close. She's from New Zealand.
Oh my God. That's her American accent? Or she just finds it easier to do Southern?
Now, I think she grew up, she has lived most of her life in America, but she was in The Piano.
She was in a piano.
In the movie The Piano as a kid, and she won an Oscar. It's a great performance in 1993, playing a little New Zealand girl. And
when are you going to explain to me her accent? Why?
And then she moved to America, and I think she's lived there the rest. I don't know.
Thank you. America's big.
Okay, wait. I think that British people and Australian Commonwealth countries find it easier to do Southern accents.
That is what I said. You could have just said yes.
Sorry. Let's do it again. Okay, ask me.
Nope.
Yes.
No backsies.
Logan goes to visit Xavier in Cerebro. They have a nice little conversation, and Logan's like, please just read my mind. Just tell me what's up with my past. And he's like, you need to find the answers for yourself. Sorry. I love I think these two actors have a lot of chemistry, Jackman and Stewart. That's why 2017 movie Logan is so good. It's them in their old age, and Professor X has dementia, and he can't control his mind powers anymore. And it's just the two of them on the road in America. You might like that movie.
Okay. I like both guys.
Mystique has disguised herself as Colonel Stryker's assistant, Yoriko Oyama, a.k.a. Lady Deathstrike, although we don't find that out till later. And she's played by Kelly Hu. When this movie came out, this character was much hyped in the marketing, and I remember being a little let down at the end of the movie.
Yeah. She doesn't get to do there's one scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they were like, wait till you see Wolverine finally meets his match. But their final confrontation is probably 3 minutes long, and Wolverine just injects her with some adamantium, and that's that. But it's okay. Mystique disguises herself as her to go infiltrate Stryker's office, finds out some stuff that she needs, here's how I can get in to see Magneto, because she wants to break him out of prison. And then in the meantime, and as I made all these notes, I realized how much this movie is setting up, how many new characters it's introducing, how many new plots it's introducing. But I think it does a really good job of juggling all of this. Mm. It doesn't feel exhausting. You get everybody right away. But Nightcrawler, what's his deal? Well,
he's confused. I mean, he's got a lot going on with him. So I was a little bit confused as to what things are things he was born with. What are things the circus did to him? What are things that he did himself? Because the little tattoos all over his body, they're just like little engravings. He did those. But he's got hooves and claws. Did he do that? He's got pointed, beautiful teeth, but they're all pointed like an animal. Were those filed? Did the circus do that? Was he born this way? He's beyond mutant. I mean, he's some sort of other.
He has both the teleporting powers, but also, he's a
creature,
biological anomaly. I don't know if he was born. I always assumed he was born blue and with a tail and with the claws. But Storm and Jean Grey go to track him down and say, why'd you do that to the president? And then he says, I didn't mean to. I was being controlled. I don't know by whom. So very interesting. And I realized. Put him
on a plane? Jesus. I mean, he would have had to go to a different country to do that to the president.
No, he's in America.
That's America?
Yeah, it's just a church. It's in Boston.
Oh, well, him speaking that different dialect and with the accent, I thought they traveled. They were on a jet. I don't know.
He himself is from the Munich circus. He is German.
Oh, okay.
But now he lives in America, where all the good people live.
Fine.
I realize this is a GoldenEye reunion between Famke Janssen and Alan Cumming. Although, wait, if you're listening to this, tell me if they actually share a scene together in that movie. I don't remember. The other thing is, Storm, Halle Berry, was very front and center in the marketing because Halle Berry had won an Oscar between X-Men 1 and X-Men 2.
Okay.
But it's not like they actually bumped her role in the movie up. I'm sure Halle Berry telling Bryan Singer to kiss her black ass had nothing to do with how little she has to do in the movies.
I mean, but do you really feel like she gets less than Rogue? Like, I mean, they just aren't the supporting ladies. Dr. Gray is.
It's true. It's true. And it's hard. I mean, that's why X-Men works as a TV show, because it's really an ensemble, and Wolverine will get an episode and Jean Grey will get an episode and Storm will get an episode. But in the movies, it's obviously Wolverine's just your real hero. So
whatever love interest, love triangle, and then backstory thing he's trying to figure out is just going to get more time.
Mm-hmm. But they still find nice moments for her, and I think she and Alan Cumming have some good little moments together.
Yeah, they definitely feel like they're setting up something for them that I'm not sure what it'll be, but I don't know that it paid off in this. I mean, there was trust there. She had him teleport her. At the end, that might just be it.
That's really it, but that's nice. It's like a nice little, just because they have that conversation earlier in the movie, like, you're so angry, and she says, well, sometimes anger keeps you alive, and he says, well, so does faith,
right?
And then later, blah blah blah. Storm and Jean are off doing that. Professor X and Cyclops are off to visit Magneto. So Logan, you'll babysit the children at the school. Okay. And I like him just kind of wandering around at night eating ice cream.
Yeah.
And he has a little conversation with Iceman, played by Shawn Ashmore. At the time, 2003, I was very excited because this guy played Jake in the Animorphs Nickelodeon television series. It was like, he's in a movie. Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't place him. He's cute. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. But then Stryker's guys come into the school and immediately start being violent and shooting at things. And I really this is Wolverine. This is what's great about him is, unlike other superheroes, his power is he can just fight you one-on-one. So it's always personal, hand-to-hand combat for him. And it's always best when he's protecting the school, protecting a house.
Yeah. He's brute force guy.
The underdog against an invading force. They come in, they get all the students, and Wolverine escapes with Rogue, Iceman, and Pyro. Although not before.
You do really see how small the school is with this scene. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it's just a budget thing, but I mean, there's 12 kids that escape, 6 that are kidnapped, and 3 that go with. There's just not that many.
Yeah, and there are so many X-Men characters, and they are trying to have them make little cameos, like the Banshee and
the
stuff. The
guy with the reflective skin. What is that one?
Colossus, I believe.
Colossus. His thing is cool.
But that's all that you're going to get.
But he's basically just Wolverine inside out. I'm metal.
I guess I'm metal on the outside. But if they were trying to really service everyone, that's another thing that's good about this movie. If they were trying to service and make sure that the fans were happy because they got to spend enough time with all their faves, this movie would be way worse.
Oh, for sure.
It's focused. Wolverine escapes, but not before being tempted by Stryker's offer. Come with me and I'll teach you about yourself.
Well, I mean, very importantly, they see each other for the first time in 15 years, and he sees something familiar and feels something familiar for the first time, or gets a hope that he could figure something out. Mm-hmm. So it almost puts the kids in danger that he's so attracted to this, but he's our good guy, and he goes in a tunnel. I love tunnels.
I love the tunnels
love
too.
An escape.
And I love what they say to him. He's like, no, I'm fine. I'll be fine. Go. Or go. I'll be fine. I can take care of myself. And they say, but we can't.
Right.
We need you, Father.
Yep.
So,
what are you showing me? Oh my God, that's so sweet. They both have bowler hats and they read books together.
I just put up on screen a bunch of pictures of Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, who are, of course, are real life best friends.
Look at their little faces.
They have lots of cute pictures.
I can't take it.
Ian McKellen was the officiant at Patrick Stewart's wedding.
Did they marry each other?
No, but there
Aw.
are pictures of them kissing each other.
That's sweet.
Ian McKellen is gay. Patrick Stewart is not.
Okay.
But yeah, they became best friends after they worked. They knew each other already, but they became close on the set of X-Men because they're like, there's a lot of downtime on a movie like this, so we just sat in the trailer.
Look how sweet.
Drank
I can't
tea.
take it. You should have warned me.
Sorry.
This is how people must feel when they see like a kitten.
Yes.
Ugh.
Lacey likes when actors are friends.
I love it. I love it so much. Are they at medieval times?
Yes. Or Burger King. Xavier goes to visit Magneto Eric in prison. This is just kind of an exposition dump. He's like, hey, you remember how Colonel Stryker's son, Jason, is a mutant? You tried to help him, you failed him, and now you feel like if you help Logan, Wolverine, that you'll be redeemed. Is that what you feel? And he's like, yeah, I guess so.
I do think that. Yes, thank you.
It's handy that you just explained that for everybody. But Xavier and Cyclops get captured by Stryker's men right there.
And then I'm thinking, now what are they going to do? He's got all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. And then that's when I really feel for the first time the smallness of the team. Because, their men are gone and the ladies are in a jet.
They can't talk to each other. They can't get the cell phone to work.
No one's told the wolf about the thing for when you can talk on it.
The phone.
Yeah. And he figures it out, though, but he can't. Bad reception. But why is this?
Because they're in their getaway car. And
dare you make me sing this song?
Pyro's like, I don't like uncomfortable silences. So he turns on the radio. It's NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. And all four of the actors groan in unison. In 2003, I thought this was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in a movie. I threw cabbages at the screen, but in honor. They're heading for Boston, and that's where
Pyro, the actor that does Pyro, does a good job of making you feel uncomfortable with him the whole time. The whole time something is brewing, and I'm just like, get your hair out of your face. What are you hiding? Why are you so angsty?
Are those black fingernails?
Oh, you hate NSYNC or whoever sang that. And then did Heidi Klum like, nope. Jessica Romaine Stamos.
Rebecca Romaine.
Blah, blah, blah. Did she like insist that she get to show her real self in a scene? I mean, I would too.
Oh yes, like
she's a fucking model. Can I not be covered in bullshit and you just look at my tits the whole time?
Or more than that, hey, I can work for a few days without having to endure 8 hours of body paint.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, just show her as a real person, right? Models already have that issue of not being treated or looked at. They look like creatures. They're to be gawked at. And I mean, the rest of the movie, she's basically naked. So
yeah, she is on a mission to she finds out who one of Magneto's prison guards is, and she meets him in a bar, and he's like, "Hey, sexy, wanna fuck in the toilet?" And he's like, "I guess I do. Hold on, let me drink this beer." But she puts some drugs in his beer, and then then he passes out in the bathroom stall, and she injects him. What did she inject him with? We'll find out.
It looked like
soon.
It looked like metal. I'm not gonna lie.
Did you know it was metal?
Yeah. No, I said that.
You did?
I said it to you.
Oh, I didn't
When
listen.
it happened.
I didn't listen.
I thought she was turning him into a metal mutant. I didn't know what she was doing.
Okay, well, when he does escape, though, in a few scenes, did you think it was cool?
When he escapes?
When Magneto escapes using...
Yeah, I did have a little bit of a hard time believing that much metal was in that man. I did like the idea of someone dying from shit being, I don't know, just forcibly
burst out of them. Yes, it's so
a reverse
awesome.
A reverse buckshot, whatever. It seems painful. It doesn't seem like that man deserved that. I will say that.
They don't tell you this, but he's actually a member of the Ku Klux
Stringer.
Klan.
Oh,
Actually in the Ku Klux Klan.
okay, that helps.
That's in the script, but it didn't make it.
Yeah, that helps.
So, and then meanwhile, Xavier is a prisoner of Colonel Stryker. Blah blah blah. He talks to him. You had my son. You were supposed to cure my son, and Xavier's like, "There's nothing to cure. It's not a disease." They're sort of laying the seeds for the next movie when the cure for mutation is a big plot point. That's a big plot in the comics and the
That definitely feels
TV show.
That's so applicable to autism and
Yep.
and obviously to gay conversion camps
And transgender.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about autism too.
It's another thing that you can choose to hide. Certain people can. You know, you can. Not everybody who has it feels like super confident telling their employer about it. You do end up getting treated different.
And even expanding it more, that's why the X-Men are such a good metaphor. For deaf people, like cochlear implants are controversial.
Right.
The idea that there's a right way to be and we can make you that way.
Right.
But what's also good about X-Men is that good guys like Rogue seem like, I kind of would like to take that cure. It meant like I could touch people.
Right, because maybe sometimes the powers are such a burden that it's up to the person to decide, is this how I want to live, or,
They go to Bobby Iceman's house and his parents and his villainous brother Robbie.
And not since Pyro have I been so uncomfortable. I'm like, what is up with this fucking kid? What is his goddamn problem?
Yeah.
I don't know if we get any Ronnie backstory or more further, but Bobby's got to be traumatized.
He's also in the clan.
Life sucks. Bobby's family sucks.
I like when they walk in and Wolverine's just in their kitchen having a beer and they're like, who the hell are you? And he just kind of stammers and doesn't know what to say.
Right.
And then he points at their son. He's like, who? And
Art teacher. That is what your brother would do. Art teacher.
what are you a professor of? Art. Bobby's parents don't know that he's a mutant. They think he's at a school for math or something. And he tells them I'm a mutant. They're like, oh, have you tried not being a mutant?
Right.
Very funny line. And I like that the way they're talking. Okay, look, it's a lot to take in. There's this whole mutant problem. And Wolverine's like, what do you mean mutant problem?
Right.
Just you see these little insidious ways people talk.
Right.
The cops come because the shitty little Ronnie called the cops because he hates his brother for being a mutant. And
but he hates him right away.
Yeah.
It's that's what I'm saying. There's some built up feelings already. Like maybe he doesn't like that he gets to go to some special school. He's some special boy. Why is he so great? And then he comes home and is like, oh, now this.
Things were going good and now you're back. No, I'm not going to let this go on even 1 second longer.
I don't know. There's some extra shit there. This is a nice shot of Hugh Jackman's ass the whole time, though. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I did shoot it. The cops come and immediately start shooting. Like there's no actual threat, but they immediately shoot Wolverine.
We won't put down the knives.
Yes, but that's not a reason to shoot him. They're like a safe distance away.
But he won't put down the knives. And he's got really scary hair.
Yeah, that's true. He looks a little unkempt.
No, he chose to have that hairstyle. It's wild. It's a double pompadour. Who does this?
It was their solution to, because they're not going to put his mask on from the comics with the
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Pyro's like, hey, these cops just shot at us for no reason. I'm going to go a little
rogue
and start shooting them with fire. And again, you understand it. You understand why he would do this. It's you can't just keep your head down and do what they say because they'll still shoot you.
Right.
He starts shooting them with fire and then Rogue touches him and absorbs his powers, controls the fire. Then Jean Grey and Storm show up and they all
get in a
leave.
jet. And that's when Magneto really delivers the line that changes Pyro's life, which is, you are a god amongst men and don't let anyone tell you any different. Or god amongst insects.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got goosebumps. Like, that's so nice for him to tell him that. No one's ever told him that.
For me, the same scene, it's my favorite scene in the movie. Yeah. He says, so what's your name? John. What's your real name,
right.
John?
I know, I got goosebumps again.
I almost teared up when I saw this a few years ago.
I know.
As states in the United States are making laws saying teachers can't call kids anything other than their birth names. The idea that the bad guy of the movie is making this declarative statement, your real name is not your birth name. Your real name is the name that you choose for yourself. So they all meet up, Magneto and Mystique and the other remaining X-Men. I don't know how they find each other, but they do. And they have a nice little campfire and talk things out and decide, you know what? We need to be X-Men United. That's the subtitle of this movie. So let's do it.
I just see X-Men Untied. I don't know how not to see Untied when I say United.
Now the stakes for the rest of the movie are, we got to go rescue the Professor. We got to rescue Cyclops. We got to stop Stryker. Pretty clear stakes, pretty clear motive.
What we do from there, I don't know. Because you're still an enemy, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out after that. Nightcrawler's been in Stryker's base before, so Jean Grey can look into his mind and find out where he is. He's at Alkali Lake, and Wolverine's like, Alkali Lake, I was just there. And they're like, did you look around? Did you see any secret bases? Like, no. Like, did you look hard? No.
Well, then Jean's kind of a dick. She's like, it's underground.
I didn't have a shovel.
And then his little tail goes up his asshole and he goes, woo.
Yeah.
Because he's a dog.
There's a good moment with Mystique and Nightcrawler. He's like, if you can change your appearance, why don't you just make yourself look normal? And she says, I shouldn't have to. Tell me about this secret facility. What are they doing there?
Well, they seem to be I was a little confused on who's mutants, who's not, but Stryker seems to be extracting some liquid from his own son's head that is a mind control substance that he got to use to specifically keep mutants controlled often, most of the time. So we know that there's one. We know that the Wolverine like lady that Stryker clearly created because it's his signature all metal and extracty spike things. So is he only controlling his own mutants? Also, this lady must have already been a mutant, right? Because she's got something that helps her take on this stuff. So I guess she's regenerative too, right?
Yeah.
That's why he had to drown her. Regenerate that, bitch.
Right.
I just expected there to be a lot of mutants who like wake up all of a sudden because they're not being mind controlled anymore or something like that. That didn't happen.
There's only a few, but he has his son who has the mind control powers, and he somehow harnessed it via injectable stuff, but he's also going to be able to use him. He's built his own Cerebro. He's going to use him to control Charles Xavier to use Cerebro.
But he's clearly torturing the fuck out of his son, who's not his son to him anymore, because the son's not being like physically controlled by his dad to do the work he's trying to get him to do, which is identify all the mutants and kill them. That's the instruction. Because once he is finally defeated by Storm, who makes it too cold for him to keep doing what he's doing, the little girl that he's projecting into the mind of Dr. Xavier goes, my dad's going to be so mad at me. And it's so sad.
Yeah.
Because that poor mutant man isn't doing what he wants to do.
That's what's
sick.
driving him. Yes. I also just like the way they dramatize that at root, he's like, I don't want to upset my dad.
He doesn't. No, you're sure he doesn't want to, but like he's being so abused, not because he loves his dad.
No, I know it's not out of love.
Okay, just I mean,
It's
like
fear.
he's got scars on him. He's in a hospital gown. He's slumped over. I mean, it's truly sick. It reminds me of that scene from Seven where the serial killer was keeping that guy so slowly killing him with drugs. Maybe I can't remember, or emaciating him and starving him that he was still alive, but he looked dead. You know, I can't remember what sin that was.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
But anyway, it's just like he's just a shell. He's just functioning and he's just producing fluids.
The other thing, they're going to use Cerebro to find every mutant in the world. I like that the way they dramatize the mind control of Xavier is with the little girl in the visions. She's telling him what to do. It reminds me
that took me a while to understand what was happening there. Sorry.
It reminds me of Inception, where the way you incept an idea into somebody's to get them to do something that you want them to do. So you go into their dream and you make them do something else that causes them to want or to do something in the waking life. So well said by me.
Well, and it also reminded me of Us, right? Where there's a gross, crappy version of the same setup as there is on the up, right? We just have to lead him through his pretty upward life to do the bad thing on the replica.
So, there's the threat he's going to kill all the mutants in the world, but the actual practical stakes of the rest of this movie are just, we need to rescue our friends and rescue the kids. And again, you compare it to the MCU, where every movie's
world.
A portal's going to destroy the universe unless we put the thing in the thing.
I mean, they were about to wipe out like a quarter of the United States, of the fucking population of all the mutants. I mean, that was pretty bad stakes.
But that's only for like a minute.
But that sound, it hurts my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get the fight with Lady Deathstrike, the female Wolverine.
Which, of course, her fucking claws have to come out of her fingernails. It's like, can they come out of her palm or like something?
Well, Colonel Stryker, he's a chauvinist.
Clearly.
She's a lady. She needs a bow in her hair and she needs long fingernails. I do like the reveal of her claws coming out. Hugh Jackman has a good just, holy shit.
Right.
He might be my favorite superhero performance because he's
Understated.
able to mix in the humor in a way that doesn't at all undermine the seriousness.
Right, like Deadpool, where it's all about the breaking the fourth wall.
But less extreme than that. Just Robert Downey Jr.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm
is-
saying he's doing it right. Where Deadpool, it is that. It's all about the personality.
But
of
Deadpool is comedy forward. Like Iron Man, you're supposed to take seriously, and yet Robert Downey Jr.'s performance is still mostly
I got
funny.
you.
Whereas I think Hugh Jackman has it just calibrated just right.
Right. The most realistic
To be funny,
reactions.
but you still take everything very seriously.
Right. Okay. I get you. You've calibrated me. All right, now they're in the dirty death machine.
Yeah. Magneto breaks in, stops him from killing all the mutants, and you're like, okay, good. Magneto's going to save the day, but Magneto's like, no.
Is that the scene you're looking at? No, it's not.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Instead of killing all the mutants, kill all the
Flippy.
humans. But first he says you're still trying to play by their rules. You want to go, where they go low, you go high, but it's not working out for you, buddy. It's not. So kill all the humans. And again, you kind of see he has a point, at least based on what he's experienced.
He is staying true to his driving goal.
Wolverine goes and captures Brian Cox, and Brian Cox is like, hey man, you volunteered to become the Wolverine. That's what I remember. You were an animal then, you're an animal now. I just gave you claws.
That's a good line.
And it is sort of a good dramatic dilemma to find out about yourself. It's like, I don't remember who I used to be, but it sounds like I was a bad guy and I don't want to do that anymore, and I don't feel responsible for that, but maybe I still am.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, he tempts him like, let me go, come with me, I'll tell you everything you need to know.
It's so futile, though. It's like, you got nothing, buddy.
He's
he ain't doing shit with you.
Playing the only card he can. And he
Yeah.
always calls him Wolverine. And then Wolverine takes off his dog tag that says Wolverine and throws it at him. He's like, I don't need this anymore. I'm not Wolverine.
I am still confused where he got that name. Like, was he named by Stryker, or was he in the military and they name each other? Like, I
think
still don't understand.
in the lore of this movie and the one before, Stryker gave him the name Wolverine
Okay.
and the dog tags. I think the later movies might have retconned that. And certainly he's still called Wolverine even after saying, I reject that title.
Another example of you showing that there's not any one right way to be a person on the spectrum, a person with a trans person or whatever. It's all about, like, you get to decide what is and isn't you.
Right.
Right.
You're right.
I'm right.
Magneto and Mystique escape, and they bring Pyro with them. He chooses to join them, I should say. But hey,
He's in a better place.
there's been a ticking
good
clock
fit.
happening during this elaborate action sequence. Well, okay, wait, backing up. You said you liked that the first movie didn't have that much action. This movie has a lot more, and especially the last 45 minutes. I mean, what do you think of it in terms of?
Because it's all the same story, the same one place for action, that the action is happening in a linear way. And okay, they're in the dam, they're trying not to make the dam explode. Oh, now the dam's exploding. I'm tracking it. That matters.
Yeah.
I don't need separate battles happening in different places, all for different purposes, especially with the Avengers, where they all have to go get their one piece. Then there's 5 things
Scattered across time in the universe.
Right.
Here they're in one location.
I still like that movie, but
I do too, but it's like here, each of them has a clear goal, clear
Right.
obstacle, clear conflict, and they're all moving in the same direction toward the same thing. And the thing is just, we need to just escape. We're just trying to rescue ourselves and our family. And that's also the thing about the X-Men, is like, sometimes they save the world, but really they're just trying to protect themselves.
Well, and they're just trying to go back to their normal lives. They're trying to have normal lives. That's all they want. They just want to get to exist. They don't want a higher purpose or higher mission. If they have to use their powers to defend themselves, that's what they'll do. But they're willing to even not use them, to just let us be part of this world. We're not trying to make a new one. Trust us.
The dam burst. It's been the ticking clock because somebody fussed.
You can't put a dam
futzed
in
with-
something and not have it do this.
They futzed with the knobs, like, oh, the water's coming now.
Stay away.
It finally bursts, and all of our heroes climb onto the jet, but the jet's not taking off. So Jean Grey says, I'm getting out of this jet. I'm going to simultaneously hold the water back with my psychic powers and fix the jet with my psychic powers. James Marsden as Cyclops is like freaking out. He's in agony. Don't do this. Don't do this. He's really good right here.
He is.
And the jet takes off and she starts glowing red, and then the water takes her away. And then that's it. She's dead.
And Hugh Jackman and him are very sad, and they bro hug.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman comforts Cyclops. And then later it's nice that he tells him, because That's enough.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you. I mean, do you like the Logan Jean thing?
It was such a staple that you expect there to be some sort of love situation. And of course you have to keep it. You have to keep the push and pull of it, so it can't work out right away. Every freaking franchise movie does this, where it's like, are they gonna get it? But it makes total sense too. He's never met anyone that knows him for who he really is and is still into him. And so there's only one. I don't know. He didn't click with Storm for whatever reason. It's totally believable there would be a love triangle in this very small group of adults.
It feels, to what you're saying, it feels more than just he's the male lead of the movie, so she's the female lead. They need to have a thing. The story is actually suggesting it should happen based on what you said. Like she knows him and
right. He's been searching for 15 years. He's been making money the way that he can. He's trying to hide what's going on with him. He doesn't know where to go. He doesn't have money. He lives out of his car. And now all of a sudden he belongs to something important. And there's a doctor, and she is pretty,
an age appropriate,
and she likes me for how I am. Yeah. And it's the first person you see. Also, you kind of choked her out, so you kind of owe her one. And, because that's his first introduction to her, is trying to kill her.
It's also nice that he doesn't have there's never a romantic thing with Rogue.
Oh, thank God.
He's he's her protector, but he's he doesn't think of her that way.
Which is great. I hope that I am worried. I'm worried it's going to go there, but
It doesn't.
Oh, good. I mean, because and people already suspect it and think it and make little comments, but they don't lean too much into it. So I do appreciate that.
I did realize this is almost literally Edward and Bella and Jacob, with Wolverine being Jacob, because Bella never ever considers Jacob. He just keeps pushing. He's like, I know you love me. Here, I'll kiss you real hard. And she's like, still don't love you, man. Mm-hmm. Still choose Edward. Still choose Cyclops. And then Wolverine graciously tells Cyclops, she chose you. She always loved you.
Yeah.
I give you some guff, but that's just because we're bros.
And you like the chick I like. What am I going to do? Yeah.
They go to the Oval Office to talk to the presidents, and they're like, Mr. President, I know you're about to order the execution of all the mutants, but maybe don't, because look at these files. We need to work together, they're saying. It's like when Obama was told, you need to hit the golf course, hit the links with Mitch McConnell, smoke a cigar with John Boehner. Can't we just come to some sort of understanding?
Is it that, Matt?
It is that,
okay.
Yes. And the movie ends with...
To me, what that scene entails is that Professor Xavier is coming more toward the center, if the center is him and Magneto finally agreeing on a way to go forward. He's like, okay, I this isn't a threat, but it's a threat. We're watching you, there are more of us than you realized, and we're trying to help, and here's your people trying to fuck things up. So now we know this dirty shit about you. We were trying to just be civil, and now we're letting you know we are prepared to fight.
You're right. And the way it's the things he says are we need to find a way to work together. But you're right. They're all there.
They're all in their fucking outfits.
All the X-Men in their costumes are there. And Wolverine says, we're watching, bub.
Well, it's there are cells everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that.
We are Legion.
Yeah. We can just activate that shit.
The movie ends with
an outline of a phoenix, which I didn't watch. I don't know any of the comics, and I don't know what's happening. So I would have just saw water.
I barely knew that she turns into the Phoenix because I wasn't that big into the TV show. But in 2003, the movie ends with Jean Grey's narration. She does the Professor X monologue from the first movie, and then see the outline of a bird thing under the water. And in 2003, when not every movie was just a tease for the next movie,
Easter egg, yeah.
It was holy fucking shit!
I saw something, man, in the water, man. Were you like that?
I was like that. Mm-hmm. And that's how the movie ends. Very cool.
All right. Super cool. Well, that's nice. They put the night flock, the night jabber, night walker,
night crawler.
He doesn't even crawl though. I mean, he's just he's a bat. He's a bat. That's what he is.
They should have called him a Batman.
But that's what he is.
He's a bat?
Yeah, he hangs upside down in the tree and he's like, hey. And he's got the tail and he's got the thingies.
Yeah.
Like a bat. Okay.
Before we give our final thoughts and star ratings, I want to again give credit to all the sources that I put in the episode description, but especially the Atlantic piece from 2019. The Atlantic was kind enough to stop publishing pro-war and pro-genocide pieces to do some actual reporting. Good for them.
Feels like a accomplice assault, whatever.
What are your final thoughts on the movie?
No, not
Lacey?
ready. I need to go see what I did from here. Pulling up Letterboxd. So I gave 4 stars to X-Men 1. And I mean, same. I really liked the first one. And I don't know, I'd be hard pressed to give a superhero movie more than that. I don't know why. I feel like an asshole for saying that, but I feel like I got to save my 4.5s and 5s for other stuff.
Like, what are can you think of some other superhero movies that you like?
I mean, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy was fucking blown away by the first one. The second one I really liked. I liked all of the Avengers. Probably some of them were more depressing than others, but like just Robert Downey in anything. Plus, you give me that fucking dude from Poor Things. What's his name? Ruffalo.
When we last tried to watch Avengers 1, though, you turned it off halfway and said, "This is so boring."
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, how many are there that would have seen?
You've seen 1, 3, and 4.
I skipped 2.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I really remember liking 3 and 4. Although there's some really sad parts that are hard to like kind of get through. I'd say this movie does a good job of like keeping it moving and staying. I like a good positive romp. So maybe this is as good as it gets, except for Thor movies. I do enjoy the Thor. Is it Love and Thunder or is it Ragnarok?
Ragnarok is the one you like.
I really like that one. I like all the characters, I think, except for the neck girl, and I still like her.
Tessa Thompson. Lacey has a thing with her neck.
She necks a lot.
She necks.
This is up there, baby.
Okay.
I might even give it a 4.5 to Guardians of the Galaxy because to me it's beyond.
My star ratings are, how good is this at what it is trying to be?
Right.
So how good of a comic book movie is this? I think this is the very best of the best. I mean, Spider-Man 2 is better than this, but I think this might be the second best.
Spider-Man, I didn't even think see, there are things that transcend for me. The Spider-Verse movie was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So never mind. I know we can go to 4.5 and 5 on some of these.
I give it 5 stars because of, I mean, everything we detailed, how well it is adapting this ensemble, but making it its own thing by giving you very, very clear stakes, very clear action, and something real to say, something that is still powerful, was powerful in 2003 as America was about to invade Iraq, still powerful today. I love all the actors. Yeah. I love the X-Men as characters. I know that if you're a real X-Men fan, you'd be like, but this doesn't really get X-Men right. To me, this is its own thing. I mean, obviously Wolverine doesn't wear yellow and
he does now.
And all that, but I'm just judging it by itself. So I give it 5 stars. That may sound absurd, but how good is it at being a comic book movie?
I wasn't even thinking about Batman. Like, all right, I totally spoke out of fucking school there. Like, I don't know what I was talking about. There's totally 4.5 and 5s, but I do think this is a 4.
Mm-hmm. It's a 4.
But I like it.
It's for the Dark World. Yeah. Okay. What are we doing next week? April 26, 2024.
I'm always surprised.
Episode?
Cruel Intentions, one of my movies that I truly have not seen since my adolescence. I'm wondering how it's going to hit, but this was one of my rare exceptions where I allow a blonde person to be someone I really get lusty over. That's Ryan Phillippe. I don't know why. There are just so many. I like Matt Damon. I don't get it. Not sexy. Like, but Bryan Phillippe.
Every blonde. I picture the blonde people hearing us and hear you say, "I hate blondes," and then
not
like
women.
Weeping.
I like the women. Okay. But just blonde males, except for Brad Pitt and a few other exceptions. I don't know what it is. I feel like they wouldn't choose me. You know what I'm saying? I'm too brunette.
You hate their hair, not the contents of their character. I'm sure there's nice ones.
Fine.
So look forward to that next week. In the meantime, please give us 5 stars on iTunes and Spotify. I just read this very eye-opening piece about Spotify and how if you like podcasts, you shouldn't listen to them on Spotify. So Spotify if you must, but otherwise support us with an RSS podcast app like Apple Podcasts. But we're also on YouTube. We put every episode of the show in full video on YouTube.
Live and in color. 4K.
Closed captioning where available. 4K. SAP. I think it's 1080p. So
1080p.
Load Bring Beams Pod is our channel, and on the socials you can follow me on Twitter at MattStokes9.
Get some primo interaction at me at load.bearing.beams on TikTok. Primo interaction.
And see Lacey's great coloring videos.
They are great.
And request some. Would you ever want to see
Request,
something
please.
as something?
I do enjoy.
The show is on Twitter at Load-Bearing Beams. I'm sorry, at Load-Bearing Pod. The show's on Instagram at Load-Bearing Beams. I'm on Letterboxd at Matt Stokes 9.
I'm on Letterboxd at Load Bearing Lazy. If you like the music, is Roll Route 9, RURALROUTENINE.
Thank you.
That is Matt's band. The Joy of Averages is their album. And if you like this podcast music, you'll like this album. I did it.
My heart grew 4 times its size.
I'm
and
going to
now
have sex tonight.
I have to go to the doctor.
Oh, no, it's too big. Okay, I love you. Bye.
3, 4. Everybody, love bearing beams, love bearing beams, love